So obviously we'll talk about the top four right now. Just below Arsenal is certain. Well, in fact, to link it nicely, look at where Liverpool were. By the way, how far away they were. 10 less than what is it? 6-7 games ago, at least, at most, even. And to compare that to now, where Liverpool are compared to Manchester United and Newcastle. But before we do any of that, and obviously Brighton as well, obviously we've got to include this because we are going to speak about
I love that. I love that. I love the gifts, everything.
Yeah, bring it up again. Liverpool, obviously, a point now behind Manchester United and Newcastle. Brighton are down the next up. Both of them, before we go into Newcastle, Manchester, Liverpool, such a shame that Tottenham game happened where basically Brighton got robbed of 3 points, ended up losing the whole thing. And look at how close they could have been right now. Could have been a lot happier if it was for that, but I suppose they beat Arsenal. Oh well.
I don't mind all that.
Big boys are here. Obviously, you've won how many games in a row now?
I think it's 7 or 8 in a row now. It's been, you know what? It's testament to our manager, and I don't get credit and he's seen as one of the best, but I think especially with this, because the season's been so poor in general, I don't think he gets the credit for doing what he's done this season now in these last 7 or 8 games, turning around what was, you had Liverpool fans who would die for Jurgen Klopp, starting to wonder, should we let him go? And that's how bad it really, really got. And it was the style of football. It was the commitment of the players on the pitch. You had players that have, dug themselves into the ground for this football club, and everything they do is with full desire and heart and everything. And we were questioning the morals. Players like Andy Robertson and Jordan Henderson and Virgil van Dijk, players like that, heroes to kids who support the football club. And that's how bad it got. And for him to sit down with his team, I'm sure, and concoct what we do now is genuinely, it won't win us any trophies or anything like that this season. I'd love to see what he'll do next season. It is stuff of genius. I have never seen, because I know you can compare it in some ways to what other clubs have done with the fullback entering the midfield. Mm-hmm. But it's the chosen player to do so for me, and the system that it creates now with the capabilities that player has. You look at Zinchenko, great player at Arsenal. He's doing it a bit. Obviously, you've got John Stones coming from the back. City have been doing it for a while with the wing backs and coming into the midfield. But when you have a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, as a kid was a midfielder, many people have always said he just lives, breathes like a midfielder, but just plays at right back. When you get a player like that and you give him this new role now, it is honestly frightening. When we come up against teams now, we've got an instinct where I've noticed it only in the latter few games, because I've been trying to work out what this is, because it's brilliant to watch, but you're a bit unsure at first. And it always feels like we feel them out for a couple of minutes at the start. You have a good 5-10 minute period of feeling out the opposition. Soon as that we open up those angles and see where the spaces are, that's when Trent moseys on into midfield, and he pretty much stays there because he gets the ball in, he passes it out, he figures out which way he wants to go with it. And you can't take the ball off us because he's the focal point of everything. Curtis Jones is doing all the running work, dogging up and down, now adding goals to his game. He's been remarkable in this new system as well, by the way. But you look at it as a whole, it's genius, and I can't wait to see it from day one, because as of now, there's no failure. There hasn't been a malfunction as of yet. And I'd like to see what happens when it does, and how the plan B is when it does, because as of now, it's been a perfect record of winning every single game. So it'll be very interesting going into the new season, regardless of Champions League football, because I think we're getting some form of European football now. I think that's pretty much confirmed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, you're at least getting 6th, aren't you? Because Spurs aren't going to get there either. By the way, do you think that just I'll ask a question. We talked about Arsenal and the pressure of everything. Do you think because the pressure's off, does that have a factor in it?
Do you know what? No, because I think the obviously the system change was evident, so something changed in order for the results to change, and I genuinely think that the pressure was more on than anything else because it was how bad is this going to get?
You were going down the Chelsea route, weren't you?
Yeah. And if you looked at if Liverpool were now sitting in 12th, 11th, 12th, 13th, looking at on 39 points or so, then there would be fans and, a lot of pressure looking at Jurgen Klopp saying, what is going on here? Like, you have this team fighting for 4 trophies, in this calendar year. What's happened? And he'd have a lot to answer to, but he's created, like I said, I keep going on about with this system, this change, big, massive change that was needed. We were begging for it. It's here and it's working.
I just think the worry is now Trent gets injured, the massive cog goes out of that system. What even that's the question that needs to be asked, isn't it? Who fills in that Trent position? Who fills in those positions where you're not necessarily got a world class player as a backup like the likes of City do, perhaps, or even Chelsea. At the end of the day, Chelsea have probably got a better team than Liverpool. You could argue, but I think that in terms of numbers, maybe on the bench, Chelsea's bench is insane. Chelsea, the way that they've if you're going to rate Chelsea out of 10 this season, it'd be a -1 out of 10. But it'd be interesting to see if Trent gets injured, what actually happens with this Liverpool team. And it must be refreshing, so nice as a Liverpool fan as well to not concede first, because how many games?
Oh god, yeah, we was getting used to it. It was getting to the point where it was like, well, we're just waiting for it to happen now, because we did perk up a bit after the first goal went in. It was like, just let it happen earlier. The earlier it happened, the better it was, and the better the quality of football that we got to watch for the rest of it. But just you look at the defense. People talk about it still being a bit shaky. I'm not so sure. I think you look at our record since this turn. The defence has sharpened up massively. Alisson's been super. He's been our player of the year by a country mile. And so it has sharpened up. And I think getting rid of Trent's defensive duties, 100, not 100% of them, but the majority of them has been massive, because he doesn't have to worry about that. He can just worry about winning us games from the middle of the park. And then that means that the other three, they have a lot of work to do and a lot of running to do, but they know what they're doing. And they're a lot better in one-on-one situations than Trent. So the margin for error just completely decreases because these players win the one-on-ones. So
we'll see. It's an interesting summer. Very, very interesting summer. A free hit almost, because there's, there was expectation last year, the year before, just to do well. And I think that you've transitioned beautifully from the front three that you had so nicely for a few seasons. Be nice to see, and you absolutely battered Leicester City in the game. By the way, you absolutely battered them. I think that it could have easily been. Mo Salah missed a sitter. It could have easily been 6 or 7-0. They look so bad.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Just a quick pointer on Mo Salah was he had an off night. He had an off night and he managed to get 3 assists. 3 assists on a bad night. So, talk about this bad season and stuff. Well, you look at the numbers. 19
goals, 10 assists, I believe he's on right now.
And
people will say that Saka is better. Behave. Okay.
No,
his numbers are insane, and he's a player, no matter who you try and get in, no matter how much you spend, Mo Salah is a player that you will never ever replace again.
No.
A bit like Luis Suarez, and I think that you're going to struggle to find. There's going to be a season where you're going to struggle because he's not.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, luckily, you look at the condition of the man. I think it's a while. I think he could quite easily do this at 35. Still put numbers out like he does. He'll always get into the positions and he'll always score the goals. So